Hey, good morning again, and welcome to another Kenny Cars and Coffee on Saturday morning. Where if you're a car guy, this is the place to be because I'm trying to share with you some of my extensive knowledge and experience from decades of motorsports and building high-performance cars. Today's subject, which is kind of interesting, is Jeffrey Jones wanted to know about heel-toe braking, and I've got kind of an interesting take on that, how I approach that. I also promised that we talk about springs for non-coilover cars. I haven't used them in years because all the cars I've built we use coilovers, but certainly there's some good options, spring and shock options for people that aren't quite ready to move up to a coilover package, and we'll talk about that. And also how in spring rates, like on a front control arm, are influenced by motion ratio. It's kind of like spring rate isn't exactly what it seems. So let's jump into some quick hitters here. Mark wanted to know how quickly when you come off track do you need to check tire temperature. Absolutely as quickly as possible. The sooner you get tire temperatures, the more accurate it's going to be. However, at a lot of driving events, they don't allow you to stop in the pits after the checker flag comes out. So you can't stop there and do your tire temperatures. You have to drive all the way back. Well, if that's what you have to do, as soon as you get all the way back, take your temperatures. Some data is better than no data at all. What I like to do, and I tell people to do, is kind of like watch the clock, because you watch the clock, you know how long the session is, you can kind of guess when you're getting just about to the end, and pull in the lap before the checker flag comes out, because you pull in then, the pit lane's empty, they think you're working on your car, taking tire temperatures, so you're going to get by with it. If that's not practical, the other trick is to, on your cool down lap after the checker, cool down the straightaways. Slow down the straightaways, cool the engine down, cool the brakes down a little bit. But in the corners, try to maintain a higher cornering speed. Like, don't slow down through the corner. Kind of go through the corner as quickly as you can, because that's going to give you a better tire temperature at the end. So as soon as you can, but if you can't get it until you get back to the pits, any data is better than no data. And remember, if it's a clockwise track, the order in taking tire temperatures is left front, left rear, right front, right rear. That's going to give you the best data. Herstifer wanted to know the first 5 mods you make for a track Mustang. It's getting back to the performance platform: chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. And we'll go over that in the workshop, the Transforming Your Driving Experience workshop. And I have news. We finally have got a date set. I mean, it's been kind of with all that's going on, it's been kind of difficult. But we are now scheduled to do the Transforming Your Driving Experience the week of May 11th. And it's a 5-day workshop, 1 hour each evening, Monday through Friday, starting at 7:30 Eastern Time. And for those of you that can't be there, it will be recorded on Speed Therapy Society. And then also, if you need to sign up through the Speed Therapy Society for the workshop. And if you don't use Facebook, you can sign up for the workshop by emailing Carrie at info@kennybrown.com and say you'd like to attend the workshop. So remember, we're going to talk about the first day is transforming your driving experience, the first crucial steps. Day 2 is building the performance platform, part 1, handling, suspension, geometry. Day 3, building your performance platform, part 3, wheels, tires, brakes, cooling and safety. 4, dialing in the car for maximum experience, and 5, tips and tricks, and then we'll do some Q&A too. Now, I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to do my best to squeeze in as much as I can. I keep looking at this and like, oh my gosh, I can't do this in 5 days. But I'm going to kind of do a truncated version, and we'll get as much information as we can off to you. Let's see what else we have on the list. It's May 5th, sign up, first day. Thumbs up time. Carrie has to give me these notes, otherwise I'll forget. So we got thumbs up time, transforming your driving experience. We've got a kind of a discussion going on, and we really like your guys' help. So we want to do maybe some labeling and stickers or coffee cups or I don't know what yet. But the debate is, should it be Kenny Cars and Coffee or Cars and Coffee with Kenny? Okay, let us know. It's Kenny Cars and Coffee or Cars and Coffee with Kenny. And we'll kind of use that as a guide to what the official name is going to be. What?
Comment below.
Oh, God. See, I can't do this without Carrie. Comment below, she says. Okay, let's move into our first subject, which is heel and toe braking. Now, for those that you don't know, heel and toe braking is something that every driving school teaches. Most of the instructors, when you go to a driving club and you're a novice, they teach you heel and toe braking. So what is heel and toe braking? Heel and toe braking is you're coming up to a corner and you're putting your foot on the brake and then rolling it over to tap the gas as you downshift to match engine revs for the next gear down. My approach to this is pretty darn simple. Don't do it. Here's why. When people focus on all the heel and toe stuff in these new modern cars, they're not focusing on car placement and where to go around the corner. And most of the people that I've coached, sat in the car and coached, I've watched this. I mean, they're fumbling with heel and toe because it's pretty difficult to do if you don't do it every day. And then the car's not placed right to the corner. It's not placed right in the middle of the corner, which means exit speed is low. And we talked about corner exit speed is everything. Now, the genesis of heel-toe braking goes way back, decades. When I was racing in the 70s with SCCA open wheel cars, Formula Fords, Formula Super Bs, and Formula Atlantics, everything had a Hewland gearbox. And in Hewland gearbox racing gearboxes, they don't have synchro rings. Now, synchro ring in a transmission is a little ring that kind of allows you to shift from gear to gear without grinding gears. It kind of gets it gets in there so you don't grind your gears. Well, in racing, that's way too slow. You probably found this out. Sometimes you try to do really hard fast shifts and it kind of gets hung up, doesn't go. Well, in the Hewland gearboxes, what they have instead of synchros, they have what's called dog rings. And these, instead of synchros, little rings that have teeth on them, like little castellated things, and then the gears have teeth on them. So when you shift, unlike the synchro, they kind of have to synchronize. These just go bang, and they're in gear. On upshifting, typically with the dog rings, you don't really have to lift on upshifting. It's just bang, 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 bang. You shift gears. Well, downshifting, if you bang, 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 all of a sudden your transmission speed, car speed, and engine speed are a mismatch. So, and with the Hewlands, you're running a lot tighter gear ratios. So you have to do the heel-toe blip. So you're getting the engine revs matched to the transmission. And you probably heard this on cars going wah, 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 into a corner. When these newer cars, and with the newer transmissions, it's not that critical. Now, if you're racing, yeah, maybe. But for track day driving, now track day driving is all about the driving experience, enjoying yourself, and getting around the track. And if you're focusing on fumbling with your feet, then you're not, like you say, you're not focusing on car placement. What I do, my basically do this because, with a Mustang, you're usually 2 gears, third and fourth. And every get them out, every now and again, maybe second for a really slow corner, mostly third and fourth. And the way I do it is I do accelerated braking into the braking zone. And what I mean by that is that there's like 2 ways to do braking. If you're racing, you're 100% on the gas. And then if braking pressure is 1 to 10, you're instantly 10. Gas, bang, brakes, and you get the thing slowed down. Well, in track driving, if you do that, your brake pads aren't going to last more than a weekend. And it's going to really chew up brake pads. And, you don't need to. You're not going for the ultimate lap time. You're just going for quick times. The way I do it is I'll go charging down the straightaway, I'll hit the brakes, get the car to decelerate down, and then blip the gas and drop it, hit the clutch and drop it into gear, and boom, we're there ready to take off to the corner. And the way I brake that is extremely effective, and it makes your brake pads last longer and your brake rotors last longer. If braking pressure is 1 to 10, in racing you're going straight to 10. Well, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just do a little squeeze right at the end to set the tires to make the turn. So by doing that, accelerate, the car will come down really nice with my suspension anyway. It comes almost flat, and it's a really nice decel going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. So it's like a curve up, and your brake pads will last longer. Your times will be every bit as quick because you're not fumbling with your feet, and it saves brake pads and brake rotors. So that's how I approach it. Unless you're racing and gone for the ultimate stuff, I mean, you just don't need to do it. It gets in the way. Now, some of these modern cars, modern like prototypes and stuff, actually all the software does it for you. As you're downshifting, you just hit the downshift, and the engine, the software is making the blitz for you. So that's my take on heel toe racing. Dan Miller asked, is there an increase in NVH for the front grip kit in S197? Is there installation video? Well, unfortunately, we don't have an installation video, but it's pretty easy. I mean, you just get a little crane thing. You can rent them from the parts stores to hold the engine up. You use like ratcheting straps. Unbolt, drop the K-member down, transfer the steering to the new K-member, push it up, bolt it into place. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And then he asked about the NVH. Well, NVH comes from a couple of different places. Now, certainly we're using urethane bushings for the performance factor. And as we talked about, urethane bushings are good unless you have to twist them. And with the control arm, it's kind of move up and down, so the bushings aren't twisting. So this is a good application for urethane. The other NVH comes from the engine. And I do my engine motor mounts completely different than anybody else. What I use are actually vibration dampeners from heavy equipment, heavy machines. And we've got two. We've got one for just street driving and one for heavy duty, like GT500s and SL track driving. And what you see is this is a stack. We've got like the big, thick, and you can see it's got these little grooves in it, vibration dampener, then we have an aluminum spacer, then we have a thin one, we have a steel plate that goes on top. Actually, those steel plates are powder coat right now. A big washer, and then the motor mount sits on top of that. Heavy duty ones, are solid and they carry a whole bunch more load. But by using these instead of a traditional motor mount or urethane, we're actually using what a vibration dampener is designed to reduce vibration, and that helps engine NVH. So, to answer your question, yes, there is an increase in NVH, but we do everything to try to minimize it. Pick up some for the urethane because it's solid. We try to minimize the engine. So is the compromise for incredible handling and turn-in offset by a little bit teeny bit increase in NVH? Absolutely. I mean, just the way the front turns, it'll just blow your mind, especially with the right spring rate on it. Oh, spring rates. You guys always hear me talking about spring rates. I think I am more married to spring rates than anybody else in the aftermarket. I mean, you talk to any other company and ask them what their spring rates are, and you're going to get like fuzzy answers. Carry again. The reason I'm so married to spring rates is that in my background with professional racing, remember I told you every track, every day, every driver is different. Well, at the professional level, I mean, we'll have a whole basket full of spring rates, because we use different spring rates for different tracks, and a lot of times we'll even change spring rates at the track. If we have two different drivers, they might have two different spring rates. So, I mean, getting the spring rate right is absolutely critical to handling. And that's why I spend so much time on spring rate, because it's so very important. And why I run so much higher spring rates than anybody else is because I know how to make a car turn. And also, remember, you have to have the right shock combination with those springs to make it all work together. I said I was going to look into some for the non-coil, for people who aren't quite ready to step up to a coilover package. I come up with some really good options. I had to go back because we haven't done this for a long time, but I thought it was important to share with you. The spring rate on a SN95. I went through, you know, what's, see, this is how into spring rates I am. I've got 4 pages of spring rates, another page of conform them. For SN95, 197, S550. For the SM95, I found some pretty good rates. We used to have our springs built custom for us for SN95 and Fox, and we used to have like a 650 front and 200, 300 variable rear. Most of the aftermarket spring rates gone down the list: 425, 460, 425, 425, 490. And then we've got the two that I've talked to my supplier about, and we've got a 650, 720, which would be almost like, it has a 205, 250 in the back. That's like real close to the spring rates we used to use for just about everything. But then there's also an upgrade of a 750, 800, and 950, 1000. And then you're going, whoa, wait a minute. You said that for touring it's 350, performance driving 400, intermediate track with street tires 500, and then advanced 650. But I'm talking about 750, 900. Well, there's a reason for that. There's something called motion ratio. And the motion ratio has to do with where the spring sits on the control arm. Now, I don't have a stock SN95 control arm. Haven't had one for years, so I did dig up one of our tubular control arms, and you can see this is compared to other, if you looked at other control arms in the market, I'll step back. This is vastly superior. It's really heavy duty. It's not going to crumble. It's not going to break. It's serious. But anyway, if this were a standard one you've had where the spring, let's say like if it's a coilover, the spring's at here at the end of the control arm, but for non-control arm, the spring sits way back in here. Now, I didn't have a control arm to measure, so I just had to make some assumptions. But what you do is you divide the short rate from here to here by the long here to here, and that gives you the motion ratio. You can also do it the other way. You can divide it the other way. You get in the same place with one you just multiply, the other you just divide. But I'm just roughly I'm using a 45%, let's say a 45%, which means that 650 front is now at 292 to a 324. The 750 is a 338, and the 950 is a 423. So you can see that even though it sounds like a lot, it really isn't. But you also have to remember you have to have a good shock package. You've got to have performance shocks, like a Coney or Bill Stein, something of that level, like the Coney Sports, the yellow ones. You need that kind of shock to control these higher spring rates. And okay, on the IRS cars, I missed out. The IRS cars, we used to, our custom springs were 750, 750, and I did find two different packages, and with one of our suppliers, 702 front and 685 rear, which would be a great touring package, and then also a 760 to 850 and 770 rear. I mean, that'd be a good street sport package, and also get you around the track. Now, something else on the using Coneys. Back before we had such great access to coilovers, we actually used to make our own coilovers. We'd get a kit from one of our suppliers that would just really high quality. It would just slide right over the shock, and it's threaded, so you get you got your adjustment, and it's got a really nice top piece with bearings. So we can take a regular Coney and turn it into a coilover. If anybody's interested in a package like this that doesn't want to go to coilovers, if you want to use just the standard Coney and one of the springs I talk about, give me a call and I'll try to match you up with the right combination. If you'd like to convert something like that to a coilover, rather than spending extra money, talk to me on that too. We can talk about that. Now, the only disadvantage of non-coilover is you're stuck with whatever the ride height is. I mean, you can't adjust it. But so like on the 750. Let's get the 65720. The front comes down 1.75 inches, the back 1.6, and these are on averages because the weight of every car is different, so that's going to vary. On the 750-800 comes down an inch to 1.75 in the front and 0.75 to 1.25 in the back, and then the 950-1000 is like down 1 inch in the front, 1 inch to 1.75 front and 0.75 to 1.25 in the back. Now the IRS cars, like a touring package would be down, in fact both of them, the touring and the street sport, would be 1.6 down the front, 1.5 in the back. So that's kind of like the SN95.
Real quick.
Question.
Wes Dunkel gave some comments, really good comments. He says the motion ratio is squared. So in other words, if you have a 1,000-pound SN95 stock location spring, it has a 250-pound inch wheel rate.
Oh, okay. Wes is getting into wheel rates. I kind of wanted to stay away from that. I wanted to keep it really simple.
That's a good
because
point.
You've got spring, you've got motion ratio, you've got wheel rates. And then the other thing that I didn't factor in, I was just making like assumptions. The other thing you have to factor in the spring rate is the angle of the shock. Okay? I mean, if a shock is straight up and down, that's the basic spring rate. However, if you start to tilt that shock, it changes. Like going down the list, a 10% tilt is 0.98%, 15% is 0.96, 25% is 0.91. So 25% tilt, and it's only 91% of the original spring rate. If you go down to 45 degree, like you see in some of the old race cars, it's a 0.71 ratio that you have to multiply by. So I just wanted to keep it really simple, basic basic motion ratio versus spring rate, because getting into wheel rates, I mean, it's a formula, and you don't need to know that. I mean, for track driving, you just have to understand the difference between a spring on the shock and a spring on the controller. Okay, what else do we have on the list? I probably should look into S197 here for these spring rates. I got actually 2 pages of S197 spring rates. That's because I started with S197 and added S195 and then the 550s. But going down some of the springs that are on the market now, the factory GT is around 136 front, 142 rear. And then going down, I'm not going to name people because I don't like to do that. I just kind of give you what's available. There's the 173, 195, 200, 225, 250, which is getting close. That'd be okay that'd be getting close to a touring pack that comes from one of our suppliers. And then there's a 325, a 285, which be really nice street sport package, and that'll also be good for novice on track. So that would be and again, you'd have to have like a Coney yellow or a high level performance shock to deal with these spring rates, because otherwise you're putting like a 325 pound spring on a shock that's designed for 136 pounds. So it's almost double the shock rating. So you have to have a better shock. So I think what we'll do next week, I'll talk about S550 spring rates, because I've done some research on that, and it's kind of pretty interesting. I'll do it now.
Well, just real quick, Dan Graham's also commented that he's running yellow conies, and he says really nice on the street with a quarter turn-in on conies.
Okay, he's running yellow conies on the street with a quarter turn-in. It's really nice. Last week I mentioned kind of tuning conies. Back here in my old toolbox, I've got an adjuster. And in tuning any shock, I always start from full soft, because at the end of the day, you want to have the shock adjust as soft as possible for control. And the reason for that, if it's too firm, then you're going to kind of skip over the surface. If it's too soft, it's going to wallow. So the trick is, for a street car, is find a road that's got a nice big dip to it, and kind of go down there with a full head of steam. If the car wants to take more than one set, add a little shock. Just enough shock until you get control, and that's how you adjust it. Same thing on track. And I talked about rebound is mostly coming off the corner. If you're coming off the corner and don't have a lot of control, start giving a little more shock just until you get that control. So that's the Coney thing. And talking about my old toolbox back here, in the little teaser I talked about my old geometry program, and I didn't mean like it was old and decrepit. Just like my toolbox is old, I've had it for years. Well, my geometry program I've had for a very long time, long enough that it's written as DOS based. It won't run on anything newer than a 32-bit machine computer. And unfortunately, several years back, the author passed away, and when he did, his family just dropped it. They didn't sell to anybody. So there's been absolutely no updates since. So I got one old computer that the screen doesn't work on anymore, but that's where my geometry program is, and I still use it. And we go through the 5-day. I'll show you what I mean by having a lot of geometry information. So that kind of clarifies my old geometry program. It's old, and I haven't found anything else newer that I really like as much, so I'm just sticking with it. Okay, getting to the 550 cars. This is kind of interesting. Now, all the spring rates I have are just, I don't have actual authoritative data. This is just what I found, and so I'm not guaranteeing these, but they're going to be pretty close. The GT has a front spring rate of 160 and rear of 668. The GT Performance package goes up to 165 and 728 at the back. And the 728 in the rear of the car, it's a lot higher than what I'm telling you for the coil on, and it's the same principle. We'll use this as an example. This is a SN95 control arm. But say this is the axle, S197, and you've got, this is, let's say this is the housing, the center, and this is the out. Well, we're putting our spring out here. And on the factory, the spring actually sits on the axle with 6 inboard. So again, you have to look at the difference, the ratio between out and in to actually come up with the true spring rate. And that's why these spring rates sound higher than what I talked about prior. Now here's where it gets interesting. The GT350 has a 194 front and a 914 rear. The GT350R is 240 front and 914 rear. So, I mean, that's why the GT3R handles better than the straight GT350, because, you know, we talk about this, the more spring you put in the Mustang, the better it turns, the quicker your times are. So that 240 is getting real close to like R350, but it's not quite there. And then looking in the aftermarket, companies out there, these are supposed to be performance springs like 142 to 220, 182 to 217, 250 front, 250 front, and that's not much better than just the R. And then there's some other ones. Here's the ones that we can get that I'm pretty happy with. As far as street performance, we got a 295 and 735. So that's, you know, that's like 400. That's in the 400 range. So again, that'd be a pretty good spring on like a Coney Sport without having to go to coilovers. And then again, like I say, we can convert not the S197, but in the SN95, we can convert those to coilover. So that's kind of very interesting. You know, going down some other suppliers in the aftermarket, these are all supposed to be performance springs. 170, 320 or 300. That's not too bad. 150. That has to be for drag racing. 198 is supposed to be a sports spring. Another 198, 182, 200, 217, 270. So you can see that, you know, where I am on spring rate is not what you get when you buy off the shelf springs. And like I say, you talk to most other people in the aftermarket, you talk about spring rate, and well, they might know. If they do know, that's great. But most of them don't, because they really don't pay attention to it. They just, this is what their supplier has. They sell it. They say it's a sports spring. They call it a sports spring. Yeah, like I say, nobody has as much information on spring rates or knows as much about spring rates and shock matchups for Mustangs. I think I do. We've got questions. Oh, no, I got to talk about something I forgot. Oh, again,
yeah, ask for questions first.
Oh, yeah, I will take some more questions for those of you out there that have more questions. But again, the transforming driving experience starts. Oh, it says April 11th. It's May 11th. I'm giving inaccurate information here. May 11th, 5 days, Monday through Friday, about an hour each night. You know, it'll depend on what I have to talk about. Monday through Friday starts at 7:30 Eastern Time. It'll be in the Speed Therapy Society group. You can sign up for it there, and if you don't do Facebook, you can sign up by getting a hold of Carrie on info@kennybrown.com, or you can sign up on Facebook. Is there like a link or something, or?
I'll put one in.
Oh, she'll put a link in, so you'll know. So.
Okay, a couple things while we're waiting for questions to come in is there's a conversation going on that you're not seeing right there. People are interested in doing a track day.
Oh yeah, we're getting a lot of people want to do a track day, and man, I would love to do that, but I can tell you that this year it's just not in the cards. There's things going on. This virus thing has completely screwed everything up we're doing, except for one thing, and I'm going to have a incredible announcement on something in the weeks coming. I can't tell you when because we're not quite ready yet, but I'll have something that'll blow your mind. I'm guessing 3-4 weeks out. It's right after the patent gets filed. Oh, we'll talk about it. So, kind of stay tuned for that, man. I'd love to do a track day. I haven't been on track in years, and Carrie says every time I do a track day, Monday, I look younger and I feel better. So you can actually look at track days as therapeutic. It makes you, it turns back the clock and makes you younger. So the more track days you do, the younger you get. At least that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, also, the name of Cars and Coffee, we need a few more voters in there, but right now I'm running ahead.
Okay, a few more voters for the Kenny Cars and Coffee, or Cars and Coffee with Kenny. Mine is Kenny Cars and Coffee, and I think we're in the lead. So keep voting, and we'll see where that ends up. So yeah, do we have any more questions coming
in?
We
have Cliff. This is he asked this back when you were talking about the heel toe. He asked if there's any other options to driving shoes that you would suggest other than driving shoes.
Any other options than driving shoes? No. And the reason is, there are other options. Are they as good? No. I mean, a lot of people drive in their tennies, and that's fine. You've got, there's treads on tennies, and sometimes that get hung up going from one pedal to the next. I mean, driving shoes were specifically designed for driving. And if you've never had a pair on, it's the sole is very thin. And it's kind of got like a suede, so it's not slippery, so that you can feel. I mean, you have to, everything you're doing in a car, you have to feel what's going on. I mean, the biggest tuning instrument you have, or the way I tune cars, is I use my pedometer, and I've got an extremely sensitive and highly developed pedometer. But you have to feel everything. You have to feel the car with your hands. You have to feel it with your butt. You also have to feel it with your feet. You need to feel the brake, the gas. Everything needs to be by feel. And the thing about driving shoes is that they've got this super thin sole, and it really helps in driving. So are there other options? Sure there are. You can drive with anything, but I strongly recommend driving shoes. In fact, the three things I talk about people, even when they get beyond novice, you have to think of not only a good helmet, but a pair of driving shoes and a pair of driving gloves. And any of the pictures you see of me on track, and even in a short sleeve shirt, I got driving gloves on. And the reason for that is that, again, you have better control, and your hands do not get as fatigued, which is important. Your hands get fatigued, and all of a sudden you're thinking about your hands and not about your driving. So I recommend driving gloves and driving shoes. And if anybody's interested, we've got suppliers. We can set you up with some good stuff. And there's some like value type of gloves and shoes, and then there's like really good gloves and shoes. You really don't need the best. You just need good. So that's kind of my view on driving shoes. Is you need them, or it would be best if you had them. Okay.
Well, I was in the lead with Cars and Coffee with Kenny, but you're starting to catch up with Kenny Cars and Coffee, so we need more.
Carrie said she was in the lead with Cars and Coffee with Kenny, but the Kenny Cars and Coffee is catching up. So we'll see where we are.
We had one Fords and Cars with Kenny.
And the other one Fords with Cars and Kenny.
Yeah, somebody else.
I mean, that'd be kind of cool, but the things I talk about are applicable to any car. Certainly the main thrust is Mustangs, but everything that you apply to Mustang can be applied to any car. And so if we have people that don't have Mustangs that you want to learn, certainly this is the opportunity. And I don't want to narrow it to just one car, but we can use the Mustang as the thrust of the conversation and also the example.
Okay, I'm going to ask the questions, but things are coming in fast, so
Okay.
I may miss a question. If I do, just repost it.
Okay, Carrie said things are coming in fast, so if she messes you, repost.
Okay. I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, Greg Oswald, there's a couple trans questions. Do you have a diff and trans cooler for S550 with a Performance Pack 1?
Do we have a diff and trans cooler for F550 with Performance Track 1?
We do.
Okay, we do our trans and diff coolers kind of like custom, car by car. We had a really good package for the back, but the supplier we got stuff from went out of business. We have another supplier. We've got the pieces parts that you can use for the for the rear diff cooler. By the way, any 550 that goes on track, any live axle car that goes on track, you have to have a diff cooler. Period, end of story. And the reason is because, like with live axle, you got this great big chunk of iron that absorbs heat that's generated in the differential. When you've got a IRS car, you've got this little tiny piece of aluminum. It's mounted in rubber, so there's no place for the heat to go. So that's why they overheat so quickly. And I think in the 550s, even have a little warning light that your diff is overheating. So you go on track, you need a diff cooler package. Now we can do a package with a new supplier, but we don't have brackets for it. So it would be up to you to kind of put some brackets in, but that's not really hard, you know, to make brackets out of some strap aluminum. But in my kits, what I do is I use, they're thermostatically controlled. So you don't have to remember to turn it on or turn it off. There's a little thermostat that turns the fan and the pump on at 180 degrees, and it'll turn it off once it under 180 degrees, and it's wired live, which means that you come off track and diff's really hot and you park the car, and the diff cooler is going to keep running until the diff gets cool. Or you know, if it was wired into the car ignition, then you turn it off, and then the diff cooler is just going to, like, the heat sink is going to get hotter and hotter. So the answer is sort of, and for the transmission, if it's not I think the GT350s or 350Rs, I'm not really clear on this, somebody else might know, already have a oil pump plumbed into them. So you can just you can use that and then plumb a cooler up in the front. And the reason we don't have a specific package is because all these cars have different stuff in the front of the car, and it's a matter of getting them packaged. Now for our race cars, like when we do a race car, I've got a really nice cross flow, dual flow oil cooler that's super heavy duty, works really, really good. But that's like, you know, it's like this and just mounts in the front of the car, pretty easy. But with the new cars, you've got air conditioning condensers, you've got all this other stuff happening in the front, and you got different fascias. So we kind of do that case by case. Certainly I can supply you with some equipment, but when it gets to the cooler up front, I mean, you have to do some measurements and figure out what physical size cooler will fit. I don't know if Ford has a package. Ford Performance has one that they use on the GT350Rs. I would check into that. I mean, that might be an option. I know for the S197s that Ford Performance has a cooling tray, which actually is a little scoop that sits under the transmission, just bolts in really simple, really, that kind of scoots air up to the transmission. And on live axle cars, as far as cooling differential, and for track days and like 20, 30 minute sprints, I mean, typically you don't get enough heat buildup to warrant a diff cooler. Now, in the race cars, like on Paul's car, yeah, we had a big diff cooler in the back and a big trans cooler in the front. But for track, because you're running like 45 minutes just absolutely flat out, and a lot harder than you guys will drive. And so for the track days, I mean, on Ruby, I've never found the need for a diff cooler. I use good synthetic fluid, and that seems to be okay on S197. Now, how do you know if you need a diff cooler? Well, two things. It's that little vent on the top of one of the tubes. If you had a whole bunch of gear lube just spewing out of that, then you might consider a diff cooler because it's getting so hot it's just expanding and blowing stuff out. Or you can take that. There's a little valve in there. You take that out and just put a piece of tubing, and you go up and you circle it about 2 times and point it out. And that way, if you get a fluid that it wants to boil out or pop out, it's going to go through the coils. It's not really going to make it out, and then it's going to suck itself back in. So that's a couple things on diff cooling.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Time to drink my coffee. It says Kenny Cars and Coffee. Remember that. Kenny Cars and Coffee, not Cars and Coffee with Kenny.
Okay, you are starting to pass me up on the Cars and Coffee with Kenny.
Okay.
It's still Cars and Coffee with Kenny, everyone, until
it's still Cars and Coffee with Kenny. We're kind of passing Carrie up with her. I mean, Kenny Cars and Coffee. We're passing up Cars and Coffee with Kenny.
Okay, just real quick, Joe Johnson says that he totally agrees that track days will make you younger. Joe's, I think, in his early 80s, maybe?
Joe Johnson agrees that track days will make you younger.
And he definitely agrees with that with his age.
Yeah, That was his age.
No, I don't know. He
And
agrees with
Joe
his
is, I'm guessing,
early.
mid 80s, but he keeps getting younger, so I really can't tell you how old he is. But because he just does a lot of track days,
Really a good guy.
and he's a good guy. He had one of our. We built up a. A lot of you might remember the Cobra 2000 Cobra R's. Joe had one, and we did our full, chassis suspension thing. Absolutely loved it. In fact, it's kind of like one fall. We had our last track event was at Putnam, like in October, and in our shop, I think we had 5 Cobra R's, all in for updates before the next season, which is pretty cool because it's hard to see 5 2000 Cobra R's at one place at one time. So
Okay, a couple of things here. Doug Gramza is a question for you. In your opinion, is it your opinion that there is very slight loss of road steering feel when getting into a high rate spring? That's my observation with my experience.
okay, say that again.
Okay, is it your opinion that there is a very slight loss of road steering feel when getting into a high rate spring? That's his observation.
Okay, his observation is there's less road feel when you get into a higher rate spring. And what does a higher rate ring mean? The way I set cars up, I'd say the road feel increases with a higher rate spring because it's telegraphing more. It's not getting absorbed in the spring. It's getting more real data to you via your hands. The other thing, it depends. Are you running stock wheels or like a light track wheel, racing wheel like we use? Because running a light wheel, you'd be surprised the difference in road feel you get from running a stock OE wheel that weighs 30 some pounds to like either the Forge line we have that's 17, 18 pounds, or we've got another Forge wheel that's more cost effectively priced. It's about 22 pounds maybe. I mean, the first time you drive the car, you won't believe it how much feel you pick up in your steering. So I think I don't know that I would agree, but it depends on a lot of variables. What is higher rate and what are what wheels are you running, because that all factors into it.
Okay.
And shocks. Remember, the shocks and springs work together.
Okay, so here we go. This is on the heel toe braking. First of all, for people that tuned in late, Kenny did a really good segment on heel toe. So you might want to re-listen to this, and you can catch it on Kenny Brown TV on YouTube. All the episodes are there, and also if you're in the Speed Therapy Society, if you're in the Speed Therapy Society group as a member, they're all posted there as well.
Okay, I hope you all heard that. I think that's kind of like my Ed McMahon, kind of feeding me stuff here.
Okay, so the question on Andrew Fox wants to know about left foot braking. Your opinion? I'm a right foot braker.
Andrew wants to know about left foot braking. He's a right foot braker. Yes and no. I mean, it just depends. It's the individual driver as individual preference. Now in like real race cars that have like the gears that just bang bang bang, a lot of drivers will use left foot braking because they can use both the brake and the throttle to kind of like wind the car up a little bit, going through a corner. So when they release the brake, it kind of takes off. Back a long time ago, I had a real problem with my right leg and right foot, where I got the foot droppy thing, that I had a hard time picking my foot up. Well, when I went to drive on track, I mean, I could use the gas really well, but getting from the gas to the clutch and the brake kind of was a struggle. So I just switched to using my left foot for both the clutch and the brake, and it took me maybe one full track weekend, but after that, I mean, I had it down, worked great. So you can do it either way. You can do right foot brake, left foot brake. It's totally up to you, whatever feels the best. Because remember that there's no exact way to do any of this. It all boils down to what works best for you. And what works for you might not work for somebody else. Same thing with lines around the track. I talked to you about the late apex for Mustangs is the easiest and easiest to drive, easy to learn, and kind of works the best. But if there's a different line that works for you, I mean, use that. Something else I tell people, if you go to these, you get like 3 or 4 different instructors. If you get 4 different instructors, you're going to get 4 different ways to drive. you know, I would listen to all of them, but don't mirror any of them. Kind of take what they say and try it, but from all that, trying to figure out what works best for you, because everybody's got a different approach, and a lot of instructors in Mustangs have never been in a Mustang. They've been in other cars, so they use like a normal apex, don't use late apex. So just listen to what they say, try what they say. If it's uncomfortable, go to something else. If you like it, stick with it. Like every driver, every track, every day is different. So, you know, it's you. It's all about you and your driving experience. Is it comfortable for you? Then you're going to have more fun. If it's not comfortable, you're not going to have a good time. You're not going to be quick. You're not going to have that really hot, really good feeling when you really plant the car on the apex and you got a lot of power down. You're coming off the corner really hard. You kind of feel all that weight on the back of the car and in your butt. I mean, there's nothing better than that. Remember, corner exit speed is everything. I lost my Ed McMahon.
Okay. Let's see. The next one is, these next few questions are going to be on driving equipment. So Tim Tomasak, what glove sources, he says, yes, glove sources and recommendations.
We have like OMP on our website, and they've got some good choices there. I mean, there's a lot of good choices out there. The gloves I have are No Fear. They're kind of an expensive glove, but I happened upon them a long time ago, and I stick with them because they work really good. But there's a number of decent glove packages out there. Like we've got OMP. You know, just don't get something that's super cheap. And you something that's got a little bit of quality to it, because you want that feel. I mean, everything's about feel. You know, your hands have to feel the steering, the road. Your butt has to feel the weight of the car moving around. Your feet have to feel the pressure on the brakes. That's another thing with driving shoes, is you're going to feel much better feel for brake pressure with a driving shoe, because it's thinner and there's nothing between the brake pedal, very little between the brake pedal and your foot. So you're getting like real information.
Okay, the next one is Chris Melitu.
Chris Melitu.
Hello, like to know about hands.
Hands. Jazz hands.
It was a autocorrect issue. He wants to know about Hans devices.
Oh, Hans. Wants to know about Hans. Oh. Well,
what your opinion is, if you need it.
I'll talk about Hans and hands. If you can afford a Hans, I strongly recommend it. You just never know. I mean, you're on track going really, really fast in cars that weigh a lot, which means that's a lot of kind of kinetic energy moving down the track. If anything happens, I mean, if you can afford it, I'd strongly recommend Hans. As far as hands, I'll come up with talking about hands. Have a hand placement on the steering wheel. Okay, here's another one of driving tips. This is what I do. Now, you've all seen, the pictures, Formula One drivers, they have their hands up there, they drive like that. Well, a lot of people, when they get into a car, they want to put their hands up there and drive like that, and you're going to wear yourself out. Just do a simple exercise. You put your hands up there and twist them a few times, and you can feel all the muscles moving. What I do is I actually hold on the steering wheel pretty much at the bottom, like about 4:30 and 4 o'clock, and not quite, a little past 6 o'clock on the bottom, and I steer like this. And I'll step back. You just kind of hold your hands down like this. See what that feels like, and then go like this. You can just feel how different it is, and I kind of shuffle. And I mean, by doing that, I could drive all day and don't get worn out. And I get a really good feel with that. So there's my driving tip on hands and Hans. Covered both.
Okay, I'm going to go back to gloves a little bit. Somebody's asking if we offer gloves, and for some reason the gloves are not on the website. We will make sure we'll take care of that. Okay,
I guess the gloves are not on the website. We'll fix it. That's news to me, so we'll take care of that and check in with us. Or you can give us a call, and we can kind of hook you up.
And then Larry Martin wants to know if we know of anybody that makes custom driving gloves.
Larry wants to know if anybody makes custom driving gloves. I'm not really aware of it, because I never really looked for them. We've got, in fact, a long time ago, we actually had gloves made up that had our logo on them, which are pretty cool, and we went through those really fast. But I don't know about custom. I mean, it's the better gloves. If you had custom gloves, they're probably really expensive. But you get into the better gloves, you know, you move up the ladder on price, and they're pretty darn good. Like my no fear gloves, I mean, I wouldn't give them up for anything, and I don't even know if you can get them anymore, but they were pretty expensive at the time, and they feel good. They actually have a curve to them, so gloves aren't straight like that. They're actually curved, so you know, when you put your hands in it, it's all ready for the steering wheel.
Okay.
If I don't have my helmet and gloves here. Next week I'll show you my gloves. Okay.
Well, I'm playing. I'm trying to get my votes up for Cars and Coffee.
Okay. Carrie's kind of dragging it on to get her votes up for Cars and Coffee with Kenny.
Keep voting.
Keep voting.
Okay.
Time for coffee.
Driven daily Mustang coilovers. Okay, here's a question for you from Alan Gisselhart. Daily driven Mustang coilovers versus springs, auto cross, and 1/8 and 1/4 mile a couple of times a year, mostly highway driving.
Okay, street.
Daily driven Mustang.
Daily driven.
Coilovers. He's asking coilovers versus springs.
Coilovers versus springs.
That's what he wants to know. He drives autocross, 1/8 and 1/4 mile a couple times a year, mostly highway driving.
Okay.
What would you recommend?
1/8 and 1/4 mile a year, mostly highway driving. Okay, the 1/8 and 1/4 mile a year thing. You know, I'm not a lot of help there, because like I say, I tried drag racing years and years ago, and you know, it's like you sit in line forever. Boom, a few seconds, and then you sit in line forever. Where track driving, I mean, it's just you're there for half an hour. To me, it's much more thrilling, exciting, and interesting. So anyway, I can't talk about drag racing. I can say that, you know, there's a lot of variables. Which spring and which shocks first can be the overall. Now, if you're going to do daily driving and some track, you don't want to have too soft of a spring, but you want to have a decent spring and a decent shock. And then we talked about, he didn't say what your car he was, but we talked about spring options that are not coilover that would fit that bill very nicely, as far as, you know, doing everything without having to go to a coilover. So with coilover options, depending on which coilover package it is, we can adjust the spring rates. With the non-coilovers, we've got spring options depending on what you want to do. But again, you need a pretty decent shock. If you've got a stock shock, I wouldn't go up very much on spring rate at all, because if you go up too much, it actually kills the ride because you're killing the shock. So I mean, that's kind of a roundabout question. It's like one of those things that it would be best if you set up one of the 15-minute consults with me, so I could get more information for you and then give you more information back. And you hadn't even reminded me of this, but I'm reminding me of this, that about 3 or 4 times a week, I like to do like 15-minute consults with people that have complex questions that are really hard to answer in short answers. So if you want to have a 15-minute consult, you've got some questions, either call in or go to info@kennybrown.com.
Or they can comment below.
Or they can comment on the
feed.
On the feed. And yeah, because there's guys out there that had 15 minutes with me, they'll tell you it's well worth the time.
Okay, give some thumbs up. Just to let you know, guys, the thumbs up, Facebook is really wonky to deal with, and we can spread the word faster of these seminars if you give us some thumbs up through the thing, because then they look at that as you're engaged in the conversation.
Okay.
So that's really appreciated.
Got that or not, but Facebook is kind of wonky. The more thumbs up we get, and those little those heart-shaped wrenches, they think there's more engagement, and they'll actually give us a little better spread on the distribution. Oh wow, look at them come! They're going like crazy. Way to go! Thank you. Yeah, because it's really weird what Facebook does. Because one week we'll have like great engagement and great spread, and all of a sudden the next week it's like a fraction of that.
They just throttle it.
They just kind of throttle it back down. They think we're too successful and we're doing too well. So yeah, all that. You guys are awesome.
Okay, so this is and keep voting for Cars and Coffee with Kenny.
Vote for Kenny, Cars and Coffee.
Okay. Cliff Gledden, he has a question of using auto blip system for downshifting.
Question on auto blip system for downshifting. If you got that capability, it's great. I know some aftermarket companies that have, I don't know, the electronics or something to do that. not that familiar with them. I've heard like mixed reports on how they work or don't work. Again, if you're racing, I mean, you got a blip because you got a racing transmission. But for track driving, do that accelerated brake thing. Go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10. You got the upslope, and then go right down to gas and downshift, and you're going to find that it just works perfect. You don't have to do it at the same time. Just do it. You get your braking done. You're focusing on braking. You're focusing where the car is. Gas, clutch, downshift. Boom, you're in the next gear, and away you go. Because typically third and fourth gear is all I ever use. And if you're using second and third gear, we need to get your car working a little better, because you're going to find out you'll go quicker once you move up to third and fourth. And I've had a lot of people that I've taught that just a second, third, because just engine's revving, sounds really good, sounds like you're going fast. And then I convince them to go up a gear, and it doesn't sound like you're going as fast, but they end up being much quicker, because you're carrying more speed. You go up on a gear and transmission, you're carrying more speed to the corner. Again, more speed to the middle of the corner means more corner exit speed, means you're going to pass people at the end of the straightaway.
Okay, here's Tim Thomasek, good one.
Tom.
He thinks it should be Cars and Coffee with the Boss.
Tim thinks it should be Cars and Coffee with the Boss. So I think Bruce Springsteen might have something to say about that.
Here's another one. Fueling up with Kenny on Cars and Coffee.
Fueling up with Kenny on Cars and Coffee. Well, that's kind of clever. We need to do something with that. Fueling up with coffee. How is it? Fueling up with
Kenny on
Cars and Coffee.
That's good.
I got to get a bigger cup. I mean, I'm out of coffee already. For those of you who don't know, I'm just a coffee fanatic. I just drink way too much, but it's decaf, so nothing to worry about.
Okay.
But strong decaf, like French roast.
Okay, this Al Morrison has a comment. He said he left foot brakes when he's doing autocross, and he right foot brakes on the track, and that works well for him.
Yeah, that's kind of a great tip. Is it Al?
Uh-huh.
Al says he left foot brakes and autocross and right foot brakes on track. That's brilliant. I mean, because that is really brilliant. The reason for that, remember I said that a lot of professional drivers will use the brake and the gas together to kind of get the car to wind up. Well, with left foot braking on the gas and right foot on the gas in autocross, what you can be doing is you can be keeping torque up on the motor as you're braking. Of course, a little hard on brake pads, but you keep the torque up, so when you lift off the brake, I mean, you already got a lot of, you're ready to go, just spurt. So yeah, in autocrossing, that'd be absolutely perfect, because again, you can kind of load, you try this, and you actually kind of load the car up. And also in racing on the starts, a lot of guys with turbos will do that. They'll have their foot on the brake and their foot on the gas, and they'll be pushing down there. All of a sudden, they get a lot of pressure, the brakes are quivering, and as soon as the green flag goes, they lift off the brake, and the car's just ready to go.
Okay, we have 4 different comments on. I wasn't listening to what you were talking about.
4 different comments on.
Yeah, no, obviously everybody else was listening to you. So Ed Tranker notes that he uses third and fourth with a 373 gear. Ernie says he only uses third and fourth. Wes Dunkel says avoiding downshifting also avoids an upshift. And Herstifer is asking about short tracks like his. Does he? I do third because the car slides on second, but still ? So.
There's like 4 in a row.
Okay. Do you want me to?
Let's take them one at a time.
Oh, these aren't questions. These are just comments.
Well, comments. Well, did everybody hear the comments?
Yeah, I think they can hear me.
Okay.
Okay. So, do you want me to read them again for you, or what do you want to do?
Well, yeah. We're almost out of time, so.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to add from what I mentioned?
No, I think whatever works. It's like you always want to be in the highest gear possible around the corner. You don't want to have the engine screaming. Oh, something else very, very important. Do not upshift or downshift in the middle of a corner. It's absolutely critical. We had when we were testing with the Speedworks cars. And Cliff's got one of the Speedworks cars. I can't remember which one it was, but one of our drivers, we were at VIR, and through the little S's on the back, all of a sudden we get a call, the guy's into the fence backwards. And we kind of debriefed, what happened. He said, I don't know, the car just went away. And he said, I've gone through and I downshifted or upshifted one of the two, and the car just went away. Well, You can't do that. What happens if you're going through a corner and you lift off the gas, something called trailing throttle oversteer. And as soon as you go around the corner, you got the car loaded and you lift off the gas, the back of the car is gone. So you never want to lift off the gas in the corner, feather it back a little bit, but never lift off, or you're going to get trailing throttle oversteer, which is going to kick the back end around. So you always don't want to shift in the middle of the corner. You don't want to lift in the middle of the corner. If you found you had too early of an apex and you're really fast and the end of the track, the edge of the track is coming up, lift off a little bit. Just lift off a little bit until the front sets and then goes. But then we're getting back to, if you apex later, you're full on the throttle by the time you get out. But if you apexed early, you got to kind of lift off a little bit because to get the front to take a set, and then you get back to the gas. So the guy that was on the gas sooner is already down the track. Corner, exit speed is everything.
Okay, I think that's it for questions, except I have one more comment.
That's it for questions, but one more comment.
So Tim Wilson said that I'm the real boss here and that I should get my choice.
Well, okay, this is a tough one. It puts me in a really bad spot. Tim Wilson said that Carrie is the boss, so she should get her way. What's that expression? Happy wife, happy life?
Actually, it may be worded that you're the real boss here.
Oh,
and
I'm
you
the
should
real
give
boss.
Me, well, I'm not sure. We'll read it that
Yeah,
way.
we'll have to interpret that.
Anyway.
So lots of thumbs up. You guys are awesome. I actually right now do not know what I'm going to talk about next week, so send some questions in. What would you like me to talk about? Because again, I'd like to talk about what you guys want to know. I mean, I could rattle on about things that I know forever, but it's all, what do you want to know? Tell me what you'd like to learn about, and I'll try to condense it down into small bites. We don't do I always start at half hour, so now we're kind of focused on an hour, so we're already over an hour. So listen, until next week, love the thumbs up. You guys are great. Send some. I mean, the questions that are coming in are awesome. I mean, it's like you send a question in that you want to know, and the answer actually helps a whole lot of other people. So don't be afraid to send a question in. There is no such thing as a stupid question, because if you don't know an answer, it's not a stupid question. The only stupid question is a question you don't ask. So even if you think it's dumb or stupid, ask it, because you need to know the answer. And so let me know what you guys want to learn about next week, and we'll see you next week. Stay safe. We're staying safe. Oh, one more thing. We had somebody who was talking to Rich. Rich is working off-site because of the virus thing. He's working remote, and somebody was surprised that we're open. We are open. We are shipping product. We've got a very short staff. We're shipping product that we have. Now, some of our suppliers are also doing like spreading people out, and we are getting some parts from suppliers. Other suppliers are kind of locked up. I've got a transmission in Detroit I've been waiting on for a while. I've got a engine in Wisconsin we're waiting on. We've got a, what else we got? Oh, we got a radiator down in Florida, a custom-built radiator we're waiting on. So, I mean, it just depends where you are, but some of our suppliers are still shipping, so we can get you parts. It might take a little longer, but we'll get them to you if you need it. And then remember,
be on a back order then.
And if you got it's back ordered. If you get a deposit down, get on the list, and you'll be like first in line when the back orders come off. We run out of rear grip kits, parts of the rear grip kit. They're in powder coat right now, so they'll be ready to go here pretty soon.
By the end of the week.
By the end of the week. So, yeah, I don't think I need to rattle on anymore. We're already over an hour. I can't keep with the time frame. Sorry, but we're all over. You guys stay safe. I mean, we're staying safe. We're kind of avoiding everything, and we'll see you next week.